This is OpenClaw, also known as ClaudeBot, and it's the most popular AI agent of all time. You give it access to its own computer and it can do basically anything, from sending emails to managing your calendar, booking restaurants, building software, and even running your business. Yeah, OpenClaw is insane. But most people have a really basic setup. In this video, I'll show you how to build the most powerful OpenClaw setup possible, even if you're a complete beginner. Now, the first decision you have to make when using OpenClaw is whether you're gonna set it up on a Mac Mini or on a VPS. Now, each has their pros and cons, but the biggest difference is that for a Mac Mini, you have to spend at least $600 to buy it. VPS is much more affordable and you can manage it from anywhere. So this is what I'm gonna show you in this video. And by the way, this is the main idea that makes OpenClaw so goddamn strong. You give a full computer, whether it's a Mac Mini or a VPS, to an AI agent and it can do anything on that computer. So if you think, David, this might be an overkill, why not just do ChatGPT? You're just missing the point. This is what makes OpenClaw powerful, and it's worth it spending 10-15 minutes actually setting this up. Because if you do, you will have an incredible advantage in 2026 over everyone else that doesn't. And by the way, if you're wondering, David, what are you using for your VPS? Well, I'm using Hostinger, and the main reason is that they quickly added their OpenClaw setup, which makes it super easy to deploy OpenClaw. So this is their new landing page and I'm gonna link it below. Just go to the right and click on deploy and this will take you to the Hostinger card. Here, make sure to select the period, 24 months. As you can see, they have a very nice promotion going on. It will save you $260. But if you wanna save another 10%, go to the right and type in code DAVID to save additional 10% on top of their already nice sale. Then here you'll see that it will auto deploy OpenClaw, saving us a bunch of time. And then all that remains is scrolling down, selecting our server location. Let's do something in Europe, like Lithuania, and then click continue, which will take you to the checkout. And here, just fill out your first name, last name, and complete the purchase. Now, as you can see, Hostinger makes the OpenClaw setup so easy. It gives you this nice interface where you can just paste in any API keys you want to use inside of OpenClaw. And you don't have to be a DevOps expert at all. This is by far the easiest way to set up OpenClaw. Oh, by the way, this OpenClaw gateway token, make sure to copy that and save it somewhere. We're gonna need it later. Now we need to decide which AI model are we using. Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini, XAI. Right now, Opus 4.6 from Anthropic is really good. So we need to get our API key from the Anthropic platform. So just go to console Anthropic, type that into Google, and we need to find the Anthropic API key so we can use either Sonnet or Opus models. All right, so here, go to the left and scroll down to API keys, and then top right, click on Create Key, select the workspace. I'm going to select my Vectel one. I'll do OpenClaw VPS. Add a key, copy it. Now, do not share your API keys with anybody. I'm going to delete mine before uploading this video. All right, so we're adding the Anthropic one, and then we can continue. And now, Hostinger is deploying our VPS. All right, there it is, project deployed. That was fast, it was like 1 minute or something. Now, once the VPS finishes deploying, just click on this link right here, and it will take you to the OpenClaw login. We need the gateway token. So hopefully you copied that earlier, but if you haven't, don't worry, I'm gonna show you how to recover it. So inside of your VPS right here, click on terminal. This will open the terminal with a bunch of stuff, just type in clear. And here, paste in this command right here. Boom, this will reveal your OpenClaw gateway token. Now again, do not share this publicly. Make sure to keep this private. So I'm gonna copy that, go back here and paste it in and log in. And there we go. This is our OpenClaw gateway dashboard. This makes interacting with OpenClaw much easier. And from here, you can manage basically anything. So first off, let's see if OpenClaw works. Did our Anthropic API connect successfully? So it's responding, that's good. Okay, we can see that it's using Claude Sonnet 4.5. which is a good model, but we want to improve that to Opus. So I'm going to say, browse the web to find the official Anthropic API name for Opus 4.6, and then update your model config to make this the primary model. Enter. The beauty of OpenClaw is that it can update itself, right? You don't need to be sitting in this terminal and doing changes. You can just tell it, swap the default model or restart the gateway, any command you'd want, even like implementing WhatsApp, implementing Telegram, implementing Google Calendar, some of which I'm going to show you later in the video, you can easily do by just talking to it in plain English, right? So perfect, found it. The official Anthropic API name for Opus 4.6 is Claude-Opus-4-6. This is important because inside of OpenRouter, for example, it's a dot instead of dash. And if you have the incorrect name, it will not work, right? So let's see, disconnected from gateway. It's restarting right now. Missing Brave Search API key. It's not a problem. We're gonna switch to Perplexity Pro in a second. It's much more powerful than Brave Search. See, done. Upload your config to use Opus as a primary model. Okay, test. I'm gonna do a test message. There we go, Claude Opus 4.6. Now, obviously, Opus is more expensive, so if you wanna save cost, you can stick to Sonnet, already a great model, Or you can even connect your ChatGPT subscription. If you're paying $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus or $200 a month for ChatGPT Pro, later in the video, I'll show you how you can use that to power OpenClaw for free, because you're already paying for those subscriptions. Now, first off, before I show you some of the more advanced use cases, let me take you through the OpenClaw Gateway dashboard. So on the left, you have the chat. This is where we are. Then you have the overview. Here we can see the gateway access, token. Again, keep this private, please. Don't be sloppy. On the left, you have the different channels. Here we can see whether WhatsApp is configured. Obviously, we haven't configured any of these right now. Here we have the different instances of OpenClaw. Here we have the sessions, any active cron jobs. This is amazing. This basically replaces NA10 for a lot of the use cases. And again, I'm going to dive deeper into cron jobs in a bit. Then we have also agents. You can create sub-agents, but this is the main agent. You can see the primary model, identity, stuff like that. Skills. Skills are kind of the new tools. This is what's replacing tools, right? In 2025, we were talking about giving your AI agent tools. In 2026, we give them skills, because it's basically instructions on how to use certain tools. Anyways, there's a bunch more in the dashboard, but these are the main things. So let's go back to chat. And one of the first things you should learn is the /compact command. This compacts your context window so that you save costs, right? Especially when using an expensive model like Opus. As you can see, we're already at 30,000 input tokens, which is not that much because Opus 4.6 can go up to 1 million tokens of input, but the more tokens, the more you're spending, right? So /compact is an essential command. They'll compact your message history inside of OpenClaw to save tokens. As you can see, we went from 30,000 to 12,000, which is basically 1/3. And by the way, here you have some useful buttons. This one is for refreshing chat data. This one is to toggle the thinking, right? So you can see now it's more concise. Here you can see a bit more details on what's happening. Now, one of the main ideas is that OpenClaw has access to the full VPS. It has its own server, meaning it can store files securely on that server. And you don't have to worry about it messing up something on your main computer. So what you can say is like list out all files in the workspace folder. You can see what's in there right now. Here are the files in the workspace: agents.md, boot.md, bootstrap, heartbeat, identity, memory, soul, tools, user. These 9 files are the most important files you have to understand. Each one has a different purpose, but all of them get loaded into every single message of OpenClaw. And this is how you do context engineering with the markdown files. Now, what I would recommend you to do is I would recommend you to create 2 folders. Create 2 folders, one named personal and one named business, in which we will create our own markdown files. So this is how you manage files inside of OpenClaw. You have it create folders, and you have it create markdown files in those folders with useful info about your life, your business, your playbooks, SOPs, your preferences, anything that you can verbalize, any action, any task. There is a way to do it. There is how you want to get it done, what it means for it to get done. All of these you have to verbalize. This is going to be the most valuable skill in 2026. How well you can verbalize your thoughts, your preferences, your judgment, and turn them into clear markdown files that we give to the computer, aka to agents like OpenClaw or Agent Zero. Because if you cannot verbalize your preferences, you cannot start automating a lot of these tasks and workflows in your life. Now, the way you work with OpenClaw is that you constantly keep improving the context in these files. For example, I can say, show me the contents of user.md. Since we started this, it's obviously going to be empty, but then you ask it, okay, ask me 5 questions to get to know about me more. Here it is, still a blank template. Want to fill it in? I just need the basics. So it asked me 4 things. My name is David. You should call me David. My time zone is Dubai, aka Gulf time zone. And I'm currently working on a YouTube video about OpenClaw. Boom. Super basic context. Took me like 7 seconds to speak out. And it's already going to be much better than before, right? So as you work with OpenClaw, you not only improve these 9 default files, but you keep adding files into the personal and business folders and building out a file structure. And this is, by the way, what I call a living file. And again, I'm going to get into that a bit more later in the video. But if you're currently storing all your files on Google Drive or Microsoft Suite or just locally on your computer using Obsidian, those are dead files. And what I mean by that is that they cannot be accessed by powerful AI agents, and they cannot be modified by the agents, improved by the agents, or used as context. So this is a completely different way of thinking about files and managing documents in 2026 and beyond than in the past. So if you're not used to this, you're going to want to pay attention, because soon enough, all of us will have different VPS servers running different AI agents. A mix of OpenClaws, mix of Agent Zeros, maybe some Claude codes, whatever that agent is doing. And each of the VPS will have its own files, its own context, its own connectors, whether it's Google Calendar, whether it's 11 Labs, whether it's Appify, whether it's Nano Banana Pro. This is already happening. And each connection, each improvement you make to your OpenClaw pays off dividends forever. This is what you have to understand, right? You might say, okay, David, but you just gave it, a prompt, a bit more info about you. What's the big deal? The big deal is that it has it stored forever on the VPS. It's on the hosting VPS. It's not lost inside of your ChatGPT history. This improvement is going to be there forever. So every hour you put into improving your OpenClaw and making it more powerful, that hour will pay off dividends forever. So if you really are serious about AI, make sure to watch this full video and sit down for 1 hour or 2 hours and actually set up a powerful OpenClaw that's going to be saving you many, many hours every single week. Because again, the technology is here. Now, another useful command you should know is /status. This will give you the status of your OpenClaw. It will tell you the version, the current model that you're using, tokens, the context window status, and a bunch of other stuff. You can also do /help if you forget the available commands. This will list them all out. So for the session, you can do /new, /reset, /compact, even with instructions on what to focus on in the compact, or /stop. Then you have options such as /think, how much of the thinking or reasoning effort the model gives. Then which LLM you're using, how verbose it is. Then obviously /status, who am I, /context. All right, so let's do /new to do a new session. Now the first thing I like to do when setting up any new OpenClaw is to upgrade the web search model. Because if we ask it, check the VPS and check your config and tell me what is the current API or current tool that you're using for web search. It will tell you by default it's the Brave Search API, which by the way isn't bad, right? Like I'm using Brave as my main browser, but it's not the best. It's not agentic search. So there we go. Brave Search API is the built-in one. What we're going to do is we're going to upgrade to Perplexity Pro. Now, many of you know Perplexity as a website, right? Like a tool you go to, ask questions, and it's optimized from web search. But guess what? Perplexity is also available on OpenRouter, and all of these models are here. So you can literally use the Perplexity Pro models, even when you're not paying $20 a month for Perplexity Pro. You can just use them right here and give them to your OpenClaw so that anytime it does web search, it uses a very powerful AI web search tool, which is what we're going to do right now. So in here, inside of OpenRouter, there's 2 models you need to know about. Most people use Sonar, right? This is the default Perplexity search, but this one is pretty bad. If you're a more advanced user, you might be using Sonar Pro. This one is solid, but there's actually a better option for the quick web search, Sonar Pro Search. This is the one you should be using. Now, for your deep research, Perplexity also has an endpoint for that. This one, Sonar Deep Research. So we're going to connect Deep Research and Pro Search so that our OpenClaw can use the latest and greatest AI web search tools for any web search that it does. And actually, this is a good opportunity to show you the self-upgrading nature of OpenClaw. So we're going to have it change itself, right? I'm not going to be going into the terminal and doing some fancy stuff. No, I'm going to speak to it in plain English, and I'm going to tell it to change that model itself. So let's start with the normal search. Sonar Pro Search, let's copy this model name inside of OpenRouter. Go back to OpenClaw and say, I want to change the default web search model to, boom, endpoint on OpenRouter. Your task is to figure out how to do this, then update your own config so that you swap it so that the default web search is not using the Brave Search API, but rather this endpoint of Perplexity Sonar Pro Search from the OpenRouter API. Once you do so, restart the gateway. Actually, one more thing we need to give it is an API key, right? Because we're using Anthropic API for the model, and this is a model on OpenRouter. So go to top right, click on keys. Here, I'm going to create a new API key. I'm going to name it subscribe. If you're watching this, and if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure to subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, it's completely free, and it helps out a lot. So please go below the video and click subscribe. Appreciate it. Let's give it a limit, $20 or something. Boom, copy back to OpenClaw. I say, use this API key. Boom. Again, this is not the best practice. Do not share your API keys with chatbots carelessly. I'm just trying to speed it up for the sake of this video. There we go. So it changed the schema of the config, and then it restarted the gateway. Found the exact config path. The schema supports tools, web search provider, Perplexity with Perplexity sub object for API key base URL. Applying now. Done. Here's what I changed. Web search provider Brave into Perplexity via OpenRouter. Base model OpenRouter v1. Endpoint Sonar Pro Search. So let's do a test. Browse the web about the new SpaceX acquisition. Then we're going to go into OpenRouter, into activity, and let's see whether we get a new endpoint for this, right? So it should be using the Sonar Pro Search, and it needs to be using it through OpenRouter, which means we should see a new API call here for that model. Okay, it's answering, so let's reload. And there we go, Sonar Pro Search from OpenClaw. It cost us 2 cents. Amazing. So we've upgraded the default web search to be using Sonar Pro Search, which is Perplexity's new agentic search system. And again, this is already a massive improvement that most people never do inside of their OpenClaw. But we're going to take it a step further. We're going to go back to OpenRouter and type in deep research, this Perplexity Sonar Pro deep research. And now I'm going to say, now, anytime the user says deep research, make sure to hit this model on OpenRouter. Boom. But again, do not do this for normal web search. Only do that when the user explicitly mentions deep research. Make sure to update both tools.md and memory.md files to clearly and properly document this. Now notice what I did. I started context engineering OpenClaw. I told it which of the 9 original files, namely tools.md and memory.md, it should update so that it remembers these instructions. And this is a clear example of how you keep improving your OpenClaw. As you work with it and you figure out, okay, it's doing this incorrectly, you update some of the 9 original files. Then you create new files on documentation of what to do, what not to do, right? Okay, so here you can see the tool calls done by OpenClaw. First, it read these files, tools.md and memory.md, to figure out what's the current state. And then it did a write tool call to change these files to document how to do this. So if I say, browse the web, tell me information about this new latest AI model, it will use the normal web search. But if I say, do a deep research on how this supplement affects your sleep, blah, 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 it will use the deep research endpoint. So now we're using 2 of the best endpoints that Perplexity has to offer inside of our OpenClaw. And it took us a couple minutes to upgrade it, and it's improved forever. I'm going to get the benefits of this literally every single day for the rest of time. So if you're watching this, be very careful what you use as your web search tool, because you want to be using the best tool out there. Now I'm going to say create a new /docs folder in our file system. And then I'm going to say browse the web to figure out how to set up multiple different AI models inside of OpenClaw config, so I can easily do /opus switch between them. We are using Anthropic API as the provider. Boom. So we're going to instantly take benefit from the change we just did, and we're going to use the web search to figure out how to do this, and then we're going to save the results as a markdown file, right? So it created workspace /docs, and I'm going to tell it save the results of this web search as a new MD file in /docs. So now it's giving me this. I could have included it in the previous prompt, to be honest. And again, this is very important, knowing when to ask for web search, because a lot of these things are super new, right? OpenClaw, nobody was talking about it even a month ago, but now everyone is. You know, it used to be called CloudBot, but it doesn't matter. AI field is changing super fast, so doing web search is essential for these latest tools. If you're talking about like Python 3, that has been out for a long time, but if you're talking about new things like Agent 0, OpenClaw, Opus 4.6, GPT 5.3 codex, things that have been recent, that there's not much info about them in the training data, you have to do web search. So boom, I'm going to send the next prompt, save the results as a new markdown file, so that this is forever included in our file system. We never have to repeat this same web search ever again. If it needs to find this, it can find this, and it can reference this, right? And now I'm going to tell it to actually update that. Now actually execute the setup mentioned above, so that I can just type /sonnet to switch easily to sonnet 4.5, and then type /opus to easily switch back to opus 4.5. Once you do, restart the gateway. Anytime you make changes to the config or any setup, you should restart the gateway so that the changes actually are applied. As you can see, it saved the results of the web search to OpenClaw model setup.md, clean structured reference doc. Amazing. This is how you need to think. Instead of launching a deep research inside of ChatGPT, and then it lives in your ChatGPT history and you never check it, why not do it on your OpenClaw that's running on your own VPS, right? That's your own virtual private server, and tell it to save it as a markdown file, and then you have the results of that deep research there forever. This is a complete shift in mindset you have to realize. Going forward, this is how files need to be structured, so that they can be accessed by your own personal AI agents, instead of just laying dormant inside of your Perplexity chat history or your ChatGPT chat history. And let's be honest, half of the deep researches I launch within Perplexity or ChatGPT, I forget to check their results. Which again, that doesn't matter if you're using OpenClaw, because you can just tell it save the result as an MD file, and then in the future, when you're talking about the same topic, it is there. The result is there, and you don't have to rerun the same deep research. So it did this config again. I was speaking to it in plain English, and it's changing the configuration of the VPS. This is the power of a self-upgrading AI agent. So now we should be able to just do a /model sonnet to switch the model, /model sonnet. Boom. There it is, model set to sonnet, Anthropic Sonnet 4.5. So let's do a test message. And again, we're going back into logs, and we should see a new message for sonnet, because so far I've been using Opus. Let's see if that's the case. Let's wait for the response. There it is. The response is here. Let's go back to the logs, refresh. And there we go, Claude Sonnet 4.5. So as you can see, all the previous messages were Opus. But now, if you want to save cost and easily switch the model, you can do that. And we can obviously do /model Opus to switch back to Opus. Now, you might be wondering, okay, David, when do you use what? When should I use Opus? When to use Sonnet? When to use GPT 5.3 codecs? Opus is very expensive. So I would use it only for the most like creative and important tasks, right? So maybe at the start of the day, if you're creating priorities for that day, or if you're figuring out how to solve an important business problem, then I would use Opus. Otherwise, Sonnet 4.5 is basically a cheaper Opus. The beauty of using GPT 5.3 codecs is that it's really good at coding. It's really good at debugging and deep technical problems, but also you can connect it with your ChatGPT subscription, and you don't have to pay for API calls like I'm doing with Anthropic API or with OpenRouter. You can use your existing subscriptions to power OpenClaw. And that is also an amazing thing. This is an open source project, so it doesn't cost you anything to set it up. All you need is your own VPS, and you can just give it full access to the server, and it can do anything on that server. And then you just communicate with it. And it's a very powerful AI agent with a full access to its own server. And you just keep making it more powerful. Keep giving it more context about your personal life and your business. And again, security first, right? Don't be stupid. Don't leak your API keys. Don't connect it to Moldbook or these public forums where it can leak your data and it can get prompt injected. Make sure to properly secure VPS. In fact, what you can do is, let's do /new. So I send this prompt, browse the web to figure out the biggest security mistakes people make with OpenClaw when running it on their own VPS, and then save the results as a new markdown file into the docs folder. Once you do, give me a super concise TLDR in here. So again, anytime you do a web search or a deep research, if the results are useful, and you might want to reuse them in the future, just save them as a markdown file and have OpenClaw manage these folders and organize your file system. This is so obviously the future, and it's kind of crazy how most people don't see this. Top 3 mistakes: exposing gateway to public internet. As I mentioned, don't do that. Weak SSH, password off, enabled on port 22. All right, so I'm gonna say, now analyze our VPS and tell me how exposed we are. Be concise. So again, you can use OpenClaw to secure your VPS and to make your own OpenClaw instance more secure. And this is really the idea of giving an AI agent full computer. It can do anything. And as you can see, I'm not approving commands. This is the biggest difference between using Claude Code, OpenCode. These agents that are running on your computer, you have to constantly approve them, monitor them, making sure that they don't mess stuff up. OpenClaw is in its own VPS, right? I haven't approved a single thing. It just does whatever it wants to do. And this really gets more and more powerful as AI models get more and more powerful, because they are faster than humans. They're more competent than humans at a lot of different things, soon enough on everything. And us humans would just be slowing them down if you have to approve everything, right? So let's see. Again, this is a fresh VPS, so I don't expect it to be fully secured. But let's see what it said. It ran a bunch of kernel commands, basically acting like a cybersecurity expert, analyzing my whole VPS to see what's exposed and what's good. Look at how many things it did. Here's the answer. Security status, moderate risk, good, gateway, localhost only, running as node user, version patch. By the way, this is the benefit of using Hostinger. They did a lot of this securing for us, right? So I didn't do this. It just came with the Hostinger pre-installed instance. Critical issue, allow secure auth truth. Allows token only auth over HTTP without device identity. Okay, so here are some things we should probably address. But yeah, the more data you give it, right? If you give it personal data, sensitive information about your personal life, about your business, if you give it access to your WhatsApp, your email, or calendar, with each level of permission, spend 30 minutes making it more secure, right? Once a week, if you just time block 30 to 60 minutes to improving the security of your VPS and your OpenClaw, you're going to be fine, because most people completely ignore it. They are not careful about their environment variables, about their gateway tokens, and they're just being reckless about it. So don't connect your OpenClaw to Moldbook. Don't do any of this dumb stuff. Just take it seriously, right? Be a professional, especially if you give it access to your personal and professional life. Now, this leads me to my living files theory. This is my own theory that I would put on the same importance as the theory of evolution from Charles Darwin. And basically, this is the future of how files and documents will be handled. What I mean by living files is files that live on a VPS that a powerful AI agent can access, right? So if you have some file or document that's sitting on your MacBook, it's dead file. Unless you, the human, are looking at it and working with it, the file is dead. It's useless. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't serve as context. It cannot be improved. It cannot be included in a web search. Nothing. It cannot be shared to others. It's just sitting on your computer, right? And again, maybe something better is Google Drive, where you can share files to others. But again, if you or your teammates or somebody else isn't looking at that file and it's just sitting inside of your Google Drive, it's also a dead file. This is the old way. From now on, with the rise of Agent Zero, with the rise of OpenClaw and these very powerful agents, we're gonna see the living files theory. Every single file becomes exponentially more valuable if it's on a VPS, accessible with a powerful AI agent that can modify it, that can use it as context, that can share it, that can build upon it, that can make decisions from it, right? If you give it enough context on your business and the issues, like maybe you're struggling with marketing, maybe you don't know how to get more leads, right? If you describe all of that, and this is why I mentioned being able to verbalize your thoughts, your problems, your taste, the situation that's happening, clearly describing that in plain English into these AI agents is going to be one of the most valuable skills in the future. If you do that, and if you put these into files, that's the difference between AI being like, cool, it's a nice tool, oh, I can one-shot this website, that's very nice, to like, oh my God, I'm saving 10, 20 hours per week with these powerful AI agents because you give them context. Context and tools, right? If you don't give them access to anything, then it's not that powerful. But if you give them access to WhatsApp, Slack, Google Calendar, 11 Labs, Twilio, suddenly it can make calls to restaurants. Web search, Perplexity Deep Research. If you keep giving them access and you connect them to other agents, right? Maybe you set up your whole team, which again, this is second part of my living files theory. You are gonna get insane. Like, the difference isn't like 2x better, right? Beginner with a free ChatGPT subscription and an advanced user that's running multiple OpenClaws. What you have to realize is that the difference between the beginner and the power user has never been greater. The person with a free ChatGPT subscription that thinks, oh, I'm using AI every day, is completely delusional. They're not even using the best models, right? Versus the person that has multiple AI agents powered by the latest and greatest AI models, talking to each other with advanced context engineering, described file system, list out all files on our VPS. Just everything verbalized into clean, step-by-step markdown files that can be shared, that can be improved, that can be built upon. The difference is never been greater. We're really gonna see people who, as a single person, can build multi-million-dollar companies, if not billion-dollar companies. We're gonna see that this year or next year's latest. Versus the beginner that uses ChatGPT, same as Google, right? When was John D. Rockefeller born? Like, that's not a use case. A use case is sending a voice note on WhatsApp when you're in the middle of a gym in between sets so that it books a restaurant for you and your girl at 7 p.m. in your favorite spot, and it knows your favorite spot. It uses 11 Labs to do a human realistic voice to call that restaurant because their booking system doesn't work. That is a real use case that otherwise you would need a personal assistant for, paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And even then, that personal assistant would be slower than OpenClaw, way more expensive, less reliable, all that stuff, right? So the difference has never been greater. And really, if you're not taking these things seriously and not building these swarms of hyper-powerful AI agents with tons of markdown files, aka the living files, giving it enough context about your personal life, your personal goals, your business life, your business goals, your team structure, your operations, your goals, your standard operating procedures, playbooks, systems, all of that stuff, you're simply falling behind, because there are people who are spending 6, 7, 8 hours every single day improving their OpenClaw, deploying multiple different OpenClaws in their company, in their team, and they are getting ahead, and they are getting ahead fast. Now, when it comes to team structure, it's very obvious, right? So this is the agentic company structure. This is what companies that understand this will look like, right? So first of all, let's say you have a company with 5 people. Boom. 5 different people at this company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, let's say you have a company with 5 people. This is what the company looks like right now, 5 humans, and that's it. Most of your companies are like this. Well, step 1 is deploying OpenClaw to all employees, right? So maybe you have one person at the company who's logged in, who's paying attention to AI, has their OpenClaw, right? It's better than nothing, but it doesn't really compound. There is no compounding effect in here. What you need to do is you need to force everybody on your team to deploy OpenClaw, right? Just sit down, do a 60-minute call with everybody and show them how to set it up on Hostinger, make sure that nobody gets stuck, and really in 60 minutes, you can set it up for your whole team. But we're only getting started, because the next step is taking one OpenClaw and making it your team one, right? So you do another VPS, and you do a team OpenClaw that everybody can access. And this guy has access to everything. You give him access to your company documents, company spreadsheets, access to financial data, clear description of the team and who's responsible for what, company goals and objectives, the current biggest roadblocks and problems in the company, anything that a CEO or like somebody on the leadership team would have access to, right? The most important data about the company. And then guess what? This is the company OpenClaw, and then every person with their own personal OpenClaw has access to this guy. So let's say John over here has his own personal OpenClaw that knows about him and his personal life, but if John needs to do some business task, his OpenClaw can hit up the team one, get the necessary context, which again will be stored in a nice file system in what I call the living files, and then John's OpenClaw can do the task for John, right? And this really is the future, because then what can happen is that John's OpenClaw can communicate to Michael's OpenClaw, get some data from him, maybe something that isn't in the main one, or Michael's OpenClaw can ask Sebastian's OpenClaw, and this one, has the data, and it's something that should be in the company, so it's sent to the main guy, and he saves it into the files. You get the point. This is going to be insane. I'm building this in my own team within the next 2 to 4 weeks. It's that important, and every single company that is serious about AI and AI agents will look like this by the half of the year. This is not 12 months, 18 months. This is like a couple months away. The technology is already here. What matters is just building this process, right? And giving enough context to these AI agents so that they're actually useful. So this is what I think an agentic company structure will look like. And it's only a matter of time before every company looks like this, because it's just so obvious. Now, since the context engineering of OpenClaw is so essential, let me break down each of these 9 files and what you should put into each of them. First of all, agents.md. This is kind of the general standard. If you just go to agents.md, you'll see what this means, right? This is a general system prompt that's adopted by more and more agents. Devin, Codex, Air, Goose, Gemini CLI. Many companies are adopting this standard, and it's basically the main file telling the agents how to behave. So for OpenClaw, you should put here any operating rules, workflows, any safety or permissions boundaries, like what files not to touch or not to modify, and communication rules. Next up, we have soul.md. This is like the personality of your OpenClaw agent, right? So what tone it should have, what character and personality it should have, what values it should have. Should it be pro-Christian? Should it be outgoing? Should it be verbose? Stuff like that. And any other behavior defaults that you want it to do. Another essential file, and this one might be the most important actually, is user.md. This is info about yourself, right? About the human. Your identity, context, preferences, essential life and work context. Obviously, you don't have to go into super detail here because, again, ideally, you build out these folders, business and personal, and you fill them out. So, for example, inside of a business and personal folder, create a new goals.md file in both of these folders. And then for my business goals, say that I want to reach $1 million per month. For my personal goals, say I want to win Mr. Olympia. And create a step-by-step guide for each of these and save them into the markdown files. Then after you do all of these steps, show me the file system again. So that's an example of how you would fill out these folders, right? We just created them, they're empty now, but you put in essential stuff. Your goals, your current problems, any research you do, any context, like maybe, for business, you're tracking revenues and you can put spreadsheets of your accounting, stuff like that. Any essential context, which basically is anything, to be honest, right? Maybe except for like some crazy government secrets or like some personal, if you committed some serious crime, probably don't tell that to OpenClaw. But other than that, the more context you give it, the better. The next essential file inside of OpenClaw that's built in, and again, these 9 files that we're covering, these are built in. Every single person has them inside of OpenClaw. This is what makes them super important. You need to customize them. Is memory.md. This is the long-term memory. So anything that should be remembered, right? Durable facts, canonical IDs, references, like if you're using some APIs, maybe there's certain IDs to projects or tasks or whatever. Lessons learned. If it makes a mistake and you don't want it to repeat that same mistake again, you can save it to memory.md. Basically anything that you want it to remember that doesn't fit into the other files, memory.md is the place for it. Then we have tools.md, also very important. This is for any API, tools, anything that like calls externally, right? So maybe I would have, like we connected Perplexity Deep Research, how to use that, how to prompt it, stuff like that. If you connect Apify, which actor to use, how to optimize the cost of web scraping, or any API documentation for any of the connected tools, right? Any gotchas, any weird documentation, or so there's APIs that literally have an inverted order than the UI. So there is stuff like that. Tools.md, you would put it to know how to use these APIs. maybe only do save read-only operations, or maybe do this amount of limits, don't call this API, it's expensive, only call it once a day. Next up, we have identity.md. This is similar to the soul, but more practical, right? What's the name of the agent, what role it has. Maybe you just do one OpenClaw for marketing, one OpenClaw for recruiting, one OpenClaw for product, for coding, and your OpenClaw is just a senior developer and it's only handling coding, stuff like that, right? Remember, the team organizations, this is still very basic. You can have multiple OpenClaws that are in the team, each one handling different role. And that's probably what we're gonna be building towards the end of 2026. This is just the obvious thing. This is like what every company should have. One central OpenClaw. And again, I'm trying to simplify this for you guys, right? Because setting up like 20 different OpenClaws, it's not only costly, it's also time consuming, and you have to manage the context, all of them, right? So for starters, every single person should have their own personal OpenClaw. That's a no-brainer. And then just create one for the business. That's it. That's very obvious. But towards the end of the year, we'll have specialized OpenClaws that handle specific roles, just like you have people. So literally companies are going to be like 50% human, 50% agent. Like for every, marketing manager, you're going to have a marketing agent. For every programmer, you're going to have 5 programming agents, right? So this is where identity.md comes into place. You describe the role of this agent. Okay, next one is kind of exciting, heartbeat.md. And actually, before I explain this, let me show you some trick. So go to OpenClaw and you can see that now it updated the business and we have the goals here, we have the files here, and this is how you keep building, right? You keep giving it context, saving it as markdown files, keep improving it. But I'm going to do /new to do a new chat, and I'm going to ask, analyze your config and tell me how often the heartbeat checks. This is by default configured to every 30 minutes, and the heartbeat is basically what makes OpenClaw proactive. It checks, again, every 30 minutes by default, to see if there's something that needs to be done. Some files need to be updated. Maybe it's the weekend and you said, on weekend, message me the travel plans for my family. Obviously for some things, a cron job is better, but the heartbeat is what keeps it proactive. It's like a ping that checks every X minutes, by default it's 30, if there's something that it needs to do. So the way to understand the heartbeat is this. It's a timer that makes OpenClaw proactive, as I said, and every X minutes, the gateway wakes up the agent, right? So we have the gateway, we have the agents right here, and the agent reads this heartbeat.md file. This is why this file is also very important. It's checked every X minutes programmatically, and it reads the contents of this file, such as check my email inbox, review my calendar, right? So maybe somebody added a new event in your calendar and the heartbeat checks it as like, oh, I haven't prepared my user for this event yet. Let me do a quick web search, prepare him, save it as markdown file, and send him a notification on WhatsApp, right? That could easily be written inside of the heartbeat.md file as instructions, and then anytime the heartbeat runs, it actually does these things. So if there's nothing to report, OpenClaw just responds heartbeat okay, and you never see it. If something matters, it will message you on your channel that you set up, or it will take some action. So you can see where to configure it, and it's by default 30 minutes, so you make it every 15 minutes. Done. Heartbeat interval is now every 15 minutes, so it did a bunch of changes. Again, you don't have to even worry about it. You can tell OpenClaw to improve itself, to change itself, and now it will check every 15 minutes. And this is a simple change that makes it more proactive than otherwise. But the caveat is that it's using some AI model, right? So if you're using Opus, that's very expensive to do a heartbeat every 15 minutes. So you need to know how to change it. So say, change the model for the heartbeat to be Haiku 4.5 instead. This is much cheaper, much faster than Opus, and we don't need a super powerful model checking every 15 minutes heartbeat.md file. So you can see this is what it looks like. Heartbeat every 15M, model Claude Haiku 4.5, and now it will use Haiku, which is much more cost efficient, much faster to check the heartbeat. And again, all it does is read the heartbeat.md file to see if conditions have been met. We don't need a super powerful model to do that. Haiku 4.5 is more than enough. Or a great alternative is Gemini 3.0 Flash. Now, before I explain the cron jobs and what makes this very powerful and how to use it, let me explain another concept, which is how you can use OpenClaw for free by utilizing your existing subscriptions. So basically, nearly everybody has a ChatGPT subscription, right? Whether it's $20 a month or $200 a month, doesn't matter. Well, guess what? If you're not hitting your limit and if you want to use it inside of OpenClaw, you can easily do that. These are the steps. Yesterday, I spent like 60 minutes to figure this out, but I turned it into these steps, so it's much easier for you. First, you do OpenClaw onboard -- off choice OpenAI codex. This will give you a URL. You just need to open it in your browser. Then it will ask you to sign in with your ChatGPT account, and you paste in the URL back into the terminal. So when it says terminal, it means like the terminal of the VSL, right? Or a better approach would be opening up the terminal on your MacBook and then copying the command for SSH and connecting into your VPS this way. So once you get the URL, you paste it back into the terminal, doesn't matter which one it is. And the default model will be GPT 5.3 codecs, which again, you can use that with your ChatGPT subscription for no other API cost. And then you can set up the aliases like we did earlier for Sonnet and Opus. You can have codecs, Opus, Sonnet, you can add Kimi, as many models as you want. And you can see that these providers, this is the provider name and then the model name, right? So OpenRouter is the provider and then Anthropic, Opus 4.5. OpenAI codecs, that's the provider name. And then we have GPT 5.3 codecs. So that's how it's structured in the JSON. But again, you don't have to know any of this. You just tell in plain English to OpenClaw what it should do, and it will do it. So inside of the dashboard, if you go to the left, we can set up cron jobs, or you can just talk to it in plain English and say, create a new cron job that runs every day at 11 p.m. Dubai time, reminding me to go to sleep. Boom. You can literally create cron jobs from plain English. You can create one for checking the latest trends in your industry, right? Every 24 hours, every 48 hours, once a week, whatever. You can create one that runs every morning that tells you the latest priorities and gives you preparation for meetings, right? If you connect Google Calendar, it can read the calendar events, maybe read your email as well, and tell you, okay, you have 5 meetings for today. Here's 2 sentences about each of them. You can create a cron job tracking your wife's period. I mean, imagination is the limit. Literally is whatever you want. So, sleep reminder is scheduled, and then if we go to cron jobs, we should see it. There we go, scheduler, we have one job right here, and this is a sleep reminder. We can see the instance of it, the setup of it, right? And all I did is I spoke to it in plain English. I didn't have to know anything about the cron syntax, none of that. OpenClaw created it, it knows how to manage the cron jobs, and it will run every single day at 11 p.m. Dubai time. Now create another cron job that runs every 7 days and checks what is currently the best AI model, and if there is a new one, make sure to upgrade your config to that AI model. Boom. And now you just automated OpenClaw so that it's self-improving to the latest model that comes out. As I said, imagination is the limit. Cron jobs is basically an N8N replacement. In the past, we used to build these automations by hand, then N8N came and introduced a powerful AI agent that you could add, and it can make decisions inside of your automation. But OpenClaw takes this to the next level. You can just tell it like, here's what I would want, figure it out, and it sets up the automation and the timing by itself, and you never have to worry about it. If you want, you can go to cron jobs and inspect it, but most of the times, I just trust it, because it just works. This is the power of using models like Sonnet 4.5 or Opus 4.6. These cutting-edge AI models, they just work. They know what to do. If you give it enough context, they're super reliable and they work. And you can see the next run, you can see the prompt. And yeah, basically you can use these cron jobs to automate any part of your life and business. And here you can start seeing the value of adding more integrations and more tools and more APIs to your OpenClaw. If you give it calendar, it can create calendar automations forever. You connect the calendar once and can forever create automations using your calendar. Same thing with Gmail, same thing with Perplexity Web Search, same thing with any type of tool, software that exists. If you give OpenClaw access, it can suddenly create automations with all these softwares combined in any complex way. And again, all you have to do is talk to it in plain English. So I think you're starting to see what I meant when I said that learning how to verbalize your thoughts and your goals and things is going to be a skill that's one of the most valuable skills in the coming years. And if you're wondering, okay, David, how can I practice that? It's by writing, writing with your hands on a keyboard, writing manually with a pen and paper, just writing, speaking, trying to articulate yourself better. That is going to be such a valuable skill, and so few people realize. So hopefully you guys understand why this is a big moment in the AI space, and hopefully you found this video valuable. Once again, thank you Hostingers for sponsoring it. The link to that is going to be below the video. Have a nice rest of the week.